G'day to all my friends and family, and welcome to this episode of Jim's 5am Club. It's Sunday, and it's not just any Sunday, but it's the NRL Grand Final Sunday. I'm working today, got a 12-hour shift, and as soon as I finish, I'm going to hop on a train and head out to Homebush and watch the grand final with my daughters, son-in-laws, and hopefully my granddaughter Annabelle will be joining us this year for the very first time. So we'll see how we go. It's going to be a tough old ask for the Eels to beat the in-form Penrith Panthers, the team that's been on fire all year and consistently the best team all year. But it's grand final, and as we know, anything can happen on a grand final. There have been years where I've been to grand finals where Parramatta have been the raging favourites, like in 2001, and Newcastle defeated them back then. And there are other times where we've been to grand finals where the Eels have been the underdogs and have ended up winning. So we'll wait and see what the outcome is today, but it's going to be interesting, it's going to be fun, and I hope it's going to be an exciting game, and may the best team win. And regardless of the outcome, I'm just honoured that at the age of 62 I can actually go to a game after 2 years of isolation with COVID and enjoy it with 80,000 other people, as well as my children, all my children, and one of my grandchildren. So the book that I'm going to go through today and deliver as a book summary is entitled Untamed by an author known as Glennon, Doyle, Melton. And to be honest with you, I didn't quite know what to make of this name, and I thought it was a male, but it actually is a female. So what we'll do is we'll go through this book and see what morsels we can take from it, what we can learn, because every single book that I've been through has been an opportunity to learn something new, an opportunity to join some of the dots over the years. And each author has an ability to take a lot of the topics, a lot of the things that trouble us, and give a different perspective to it. And it's these different perspectives, this different OPE, other people's experiences, that help us mull over things, to help decipher things, and to help us come up with our own solutions and our own reasons in terms of how things work and how things engage us and how things work for us. So it helps us shape our worldview, because at the end of the day, our worldview is based on our relationships with our families, with our friends, with other people, with our environments. And on our own, we are really nothing at all. And we are truly defined through our relationships to everyone else. So this author kicks off this book with a wonderful lesson, and I'll just go up the top here and get another perspective as we step through this book summary. And the author tells us here that grief is love's souvenir. The reason why we feel grief is that it's a souvenir that you get if you've experienced love in your life. So let me just go over here under the tree and get an opportunity to see this wonderful harbour from a different perspective. I'm having a few issues with my camera at the moment, so what I'll do is I'll just zoom in a little bit more. Just bear with me, I'll get this right sooner or later. Geez, this camera's having a bit of a hissy fit at the moment. Don't know why. I'll try and stick to that aspect and see if it works. So let's move ahead and see what we can learn from this book summary. Grief is love's souvenir, and it's the proof that we have that we once loved. It is the receipt that we wave in the air to say that, look, love was once mine. I love well, and here is my proof, and the fact that I paid the full price. So what a wonderful perspective. And I hope it's not a perspective that I get to live today following the grand final. But just to say that grief is love's souvenir, that in order to feel grief, you first have to experience love. And it's a proof that we once loved, and a receipt that we can show the world in terms of the evidence that we once loved, because we are now feeling and grieving that experience that we enjoyed. The author has a call to action here for each and every one of us, that we really need to discover and embrace our unapologetic self. I remember years ago, my Uncle George passed away, and my Auntie Frida shared an intimate and a beautiful moment with me in terms of those last moments with her beloved husband. And she said that Uncle George spoke to my auntie and said to her, he said, Frida, I know we've had a life of ups and downs, and all married couples have lives of ups and downs. We are no different to most other people. But he said that now that I am dying, now that I'm at my last moments in my life, I want you to know one thing, and that one thing is that if we have ever experienced a beautiful moment during the many years of our marriage, my Uncle George implored my auntie to focus on those beautiful moments, on that one special moment, and to forget all the other moments, and to remember him fondly as a person who loved her and a person who he felt was loved by her, and to focus on that moment. So I just want you to focus, he said. I just want you to remember that one moment that we enjoyed and we experienced true love and connection. So my Uncle George was one of those people who was really good at communicating. He could really touch a person's soul, and he was very adventurous in the life that he lived. And you knew that when you were with my uncle, that you were going to experience, the full spectrum of what life has to offer. So moving on to this book summary, the author here, Glennon, Doyle Melton, says that we should try not to repress our true self. Your true nature will show eventually, so don't force yourself to hide it. Sometimes we all realise that we are in a place that we don't fit in, no matter how hard we try to fit in. And the call to action or the solution is that we need to sometimes step back and to introspectively examine ourselves, examine our lives, and to try and connect where possible with those around us, and to admit our frailties, our weaknesses, and to seek forgiveness and to offer forgiveness to those around us. This author talks about the fact that she was in a loving relationship with a man. She had children, she loved her children, and she tried very, very hard to live a middle-class, traditional life. But at one point in time, I guess she felt that she fell out of love with her partner, with her husband, and even though she wanted to be a great parent, she also wanted to live her life to the fullest, which meant that she couldn't repress, she couldn't hold back, she couldn't live a lie any longer. And so she fell in love with somebody else, another woman in this respect. It makes no difference whether or not you fall in love with another woman or another man. The fact remains that she had fallen out of love with her partner and her marriage was no longer viable. So she divorced her husband, stayed friends, of course, with her husband for her children's sake, and married, or eventually fell in love and partnered with another woman in a different type of relationship. But as I say, it makes no difference at the end of the day. A broken family is a broken family. It doesn't matter if that family is broken for another man or another woman, or even if it's broken just to be, to live a life on your own. When something is broken, it is broken. But the way this woman sees herself is quite interesting, and something that we will discuss in a little bit more detail throughout this vlog. So Glennon saw herself as being a role model to her family, a role model to other families, to her children, to other women. And she said that sometimes you just need to step back and to think about your life and to think about your role in life. Some may say she's a good role model, others may say that she's a bad role model. That's up to each person's perspective. But from this author's perspective, she looked at herself, she looked at her life, she examined her life, and she said to herself, I need to become a good role model to my children. And in order to become a good role model to your children, sometimes it means doing what is best for you and being selfish as opposed to being selfish. It's not the sort of thing that I ascribe to in my life, because I feel like my role is to dedicate myself to my family, to my wife, to my children, to my grandchildren, and to my relatives and all of those in my circle. I see myself as a giver. I see myself as a servant to others. But this is where the author puts a different sort of spin on it, where she says that being a perfect parent, being a perfect son or daughter, being a perfect partner, being a perfect work person, or being a perfect Christian, or being a perfect whatever, is all but impossible. It's an impossible feat. And we all need to struggle with our relationships, with ourselves, and with others around us. And we're going to struggle with the decisions that we make and what is the best way forward. So life indeed is going to be a struggle for each and every one of us. But sometimes you just need to think, now, what would happen if my daughter one day woke up and realised that she's no longer in love with her husband, or is no longer fulfilled in her relationship with her friends, her family, her work peers, and is going through a similar situation to what we're going through as individuals, regardless of what that situation is. She asked herself, what would be my advice to her? And, what would I need to do with my life in order to be and set an example for her children? Once again, it is a touchy subject. I am always for family, for keeping family together. And I remember years ago hearing Ita Buttrose talk about the challenges that people face when parents divorce, because she was saying that at the end of the day, parents divorce for different reasons, but when you take a look at the impact that it has on the children, the big impact that it has on their lives, it's something that is never considered deeply by the people who offer advice to people in terms of whether or not they should or should not get divorced. Because Ita Buttrose said that children want their parents to stay together, because the parents are the children's parents. That is a relationship that the children have grown up with, regardless of how good or how bad it is. As Ita mentions, he says that through divorce there are first, second and third level consequences that happen in lag time to the parents, to the children, to the friends of the parents, to the families of the parents, that impact everyone in many and different ways. Ita also goes on to say that from her perspective, her parents divorcing impacted her and her children and her siblings in a big way. But this author seems to talk about the importance of pursuing happiness. And in order to pursue her happiness meant that she needed to divorce from her husband. Some may see this as a selfish act. Others may see it as a selfless act in order to bring stability and happiness to her children and her family. I guess each situation is different, and each situation will have a different impact on those involved. So the last point that comes from this author is where she talks about you need to make a decision at some point in time, and you need to stick to that decision. And when it's meant to be, it will be. So stop fighting your true self. Once again, I would hate to be in a situation where I wake up one morning, one day, and feel unfulfilled with my life. But sometimes, as the author here says, you need to live your true self, and we all have a destiny, and we mustn't fight that destiny. We must embrace it as long as it reflects our true values. That's why it's important to have your value set well defined and determined, early in your life, because that value set, your values, will shape your actions, will shape your goals, will shape your worldview, and will give you an unbelievable amount of energy to keep on fighting for what is right for you, and will keep you positive and living with positive expectancy for as long as you need to in order to achieve your outcome. So that's why we say that we need to be congruent with our values and to stop pretending. It's not good. I wouldn't want my wife, I wouldn't like my children, I wouldn't like my work peers to be living a life of pretense where they're pretending to be happy, where they're pretending to be playing happy families just to make other people happy. It's important to do it for yourself and for what represents your true value or your true set of values. So the author here calls us to action, to stop pretending, stop hiding, stop coming up with excuses, and to follow your values, your intuition and your dreams, as long as you're consistent and congruent with those things and it brings you happiness. The last thing you want to do is to make decisions which you may regret later on in life. A lot of people make decisions rashly. They do things without thinking about the first, second and third level consequences. They don't quite understand that life happens in lag time and that there are a lot of hidden miracles that are happening along the way. And sometimes you may see the end in a road when it's only a bend. Because the best things in our lives happen slowly and sometimes happen quickly overnight. I remember the wonderful story that I learnt at an Anthony Robbins seminar where he talked about the Chinese bamboo tree. And he says that when you plant the bamboo seed for these trees, nothing seems to happen. You keep on watering the seed and nothing seems to happen. Days pass, weeks pass, months pass. And it could take up to 3 years for nothing to materialize, because all the activity, all the growth, all the investment is happening out of your sight. And it appears like nothing is happening at all, but all of the growth is occurring underground, where the roots are growing and spreading and running underground. The nutrients are being picked up and translated into further unseen growth. And then all of a sudden a little sprout will come out of the ground, and within a few months that little sprout will turn into a magnificent bamboo bush. And it just happens at a blink of an eye. And similarly with our lives, we can't tell what is happening. And sometimes we need to be patient. Sometimes we need to persevere. And sometimes we need to just stick to our goals for as long as we can, with the belief that things will work out eventually. And as my spiritual father always says, the best years are always ahead of us. The best times are ahead of us. We need to maintain the focus. We need to maintain the faith. We need to maintain the patience. And most importantly of all, we need to invest in family and to stick with family and to stick to the things and the promises that we have made to ourselves and to others. So for all of those people going through a rocky stage in their relationship, be it at work, be it in your community, be it financially, be it in your family or with your partner, the best lesson that we have is to stick to it, to continue investing in your dream. Because if you divorce, if you leave your job, if you decide to do something completely different, there is no guarantee that it's going to be any better than what you're currently experiencing, and that the grass is not always greener on the other side of the fence. And there's always going to be issues with your next relationship because you've got unresolved issues in this relationship. If you can't find happiness here and now, what makes you think you're going to find happiness somewhere else with someone else unless you first fix the challenges that you face? And many of those challenges are created by yourself and not by others, because others, our environments, are a reflection of who we are. They're a reflection of our worldview. They are a reflection of our impatience, of our intolerance, and our inability to introspect and look and step back and ask ourselves, what can I be doing better to make this situation much better? Anyway, take care everybody. Thank you for joining me on this episode of Jim's 5am Club. I've been chatting for a while and I'm almost at the half an hour. But go the Eels tonight, and hopefully we can celebrate a great match. I'd hate it to be too one-sided either way, and I hope that all the fans can get to enjoy the finest example that rugby league has to offer. Take care everybody, yassas, and bye for now.